welcome to another edition of my vlog, Gardening by the Moon, a townie's quest for self-sufficiency using the energies of nature. In this episode, I'll be continuing my review of lunar cycles and events that influence biodynamic gardening, and I'm going to look at the ascending and descending moon. This cycle refers to the position of the moon within its orbit around the Earth. The Earth moves around the Sun on what is known as the ecliptic, and the moon's orbit is approximately 5 degrees off that ecliptic. So as a consequence, half the time the moon is ascending, and then half the time the moon is descending. When the moon crosses the ecliptic, these are known as the nodes, or the ascending node and the descending node. According to Biodynamy Services, the cycle lasts about 27.3 days, and the moon's orbit is at its lowest point in Scorpio, the Scorpio rising, and then ascends until it reaches its high point in Taurus. Now, although this cycle is happening every 27.3 days, they also link it to a number of other cycles. They say it is related to the primary annual solar cycle that goes from the winter solstice to the summer solstice. They also suggest that it's mirrored in a daily cycle of the breathing of the Earth, where the Earth exhales and inhales from midnight to midday and back again. According to them, during the ascending moon, growth forces are accentuated in the aerial parts of the plants, and there is an increase in vitality. They suggest planting and cultivating at this time, and quote Maria Thun, who suggests preparing soil for sowing. Also suggested is harvesting leaf vegetables and fruit in the morning, or harvesting aerial parts of plants that are for medicinal purposes, or making biodynamic preparations, hay and silage. Work to be done during a descending moon, where soil activity is more intense, are things like spraying manure, well, I'm a few years away from that yet, making and spreading compost, working on the soil, transplanting trees, plants and cuttings, and harvesting root vegetables for storage on root days. Lunarium.co.uk quotes Michel Gross on the subject, and he suggests harvesting fruit with high juice content during ascending moon, but warns against pruning trees or cutting plants for drying at this time. Also, during the descending moon, it's a good time to harvest root crops or the aerial parts of the plant that you want to dry quickly. Other jobs like repotting, ploughing, spreading compost or manure, and cutting wood are also suggested. The nodes, which are the points at which the lunar orbit crosses the ecliptic, generally seem to be negative, and gardening and any jobs relating to food or processing, planting, harvesting, the works, it seems you don't do around the nodes. Although there seems to be a difference in opinion on how long this disruptive process lasts. It seems to range between 3 hours and 24 hours. Although Dynamy Services, whose calendar I am following, they suggest 6 hours either side of the node crossing to give a rest time of 12 hours. So that's like a day off, twice a month. Happy days. While we're on the subject of nodes, it appears that planetary nodes are every bit as negative as the lunar nodes, but last a lot longer. Biodynamy Services refer to Maria Thun, who considered that for the near planets, i.e. Mercury and Venus, the period lasting 24 to 36 hours before and the 12 hours after the planetary nodes were detrimental. Nodes of the distant planets, that's Mars, Jupiter and Saturn, are rare, but an even greater period of time should be given around them. And they cite an example of a Mars node this coming April, which will have a disruptive influence for nearly 3 days. Maria Thun is also supposed to have suggested that the effects of nodes and transitions are troublesome in only 70% of cases, but that's a big enough percentage in my opinion to give this idea some respect. While researching this subject, I came across an interesting blog from New Zealand, Maunga Kareru. They are also studying farming and gardening by the biodynamic calendar, and their entry about the ascending and descending moon is quite clear. They say, this ascending and descending moon affects the gravitational pull of water, so because plants are for the most part made up of water, this gravitational pull affects them. Seems simple enough. The sap in the plant, for example, is fluid, so on an ascending moon it is drawn upwards towards the sky, and on a descending moon, likewise, it is drawn down towards the soil. Activities like seed propagation work well on ascending moon as the pull-up encourages sprouting. Activities like pruning work best on a descending moon for the simple reason that the sap in the plant drawn down towards the earth is less likely to continue to bleed from its cut limb of the plant. They then make the following observation about their own experiment. Over the summer we did a test where we pruned half of our large chamomile patch in a descending blossom day and half on a random ascending day. The patch cut on the descending blossom day continued to grow and send out more flowers for months. The other side completely turned up its nose and died. So that's interesting. I should probably go back to this blog as they have a number of articles which could well prove useful in the future. So thanks, Kiwis. So that's what I've learned about this cycle. In the next video I'll look at the remaining factors that will be influencing what I do and possibly how it turns out. I did have an idea of something I could be doing, pulling up some long grass while it's frozen and starting my mulch or compost pile. But since I had that idea, it hasn't really stopped snowing, and now that frozen grass is properly covered in the white stuff. Fortunately, there's still some work to do outside, and that's clearing the drive. Got to keep burning those calories. So, I hope you found this interesting and you'll come back next time. Until then, take care and goodbye.